Hello and welcome back to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. We are joined by another international guest from my very favorite place in the world, New York City, another fellow light worker. We're talking about creating wealth and unlocking your true potential with master coach, Michelle Jeovanny. How are you, Michelle?
So nice to be here with you, Stephanie. Really excited to be here.
I'm so grateful, and it's been a long time we've been trying to set this up, so I'm very excited to get this going. And you were just saying you've had a very energetically charged day. Is that working with clients or?
All of the above, clients, really deep conversations, and just had like a beautiful walk to myself, a lot of clarity coming through. This day auspiciously, I don't know if it'll air today, but the day that we're shooting it is really powerful because it is one of
Why is
the
that?
it is one of the most energetically amplified days. There's a line of demarcation that's happening today for the entire collective. Like we're getting this massive upgrade on a consciousness level. And so
Oh.
there's been like a lot of like glitches that people are experiencing, headaches, sinuses. It was all leading up to today, having this day of like resetting, rebooting. Everybody's getting a massive upgrade.
Michelle, well, for those listening, I'm not sure when this is going to air because I have a lot of episodes, but when we're recording, it's the 30th of October for you and it's Halloween for us. And fall is my favorite time in New York. I love it. I have had a really challenging, not in a very bad way, but just very challenging few weeks. And just from yesterday and today, I woke up so energetically charged and I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. And I've had a sinus issue for weeks and it's not there today. I haven't used my nasal spray. This is fascinating to me.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. I
It is
love that.
happening.
All right,
Okay.
this is super exciting. Let's dive straight into it. You've had such an interesting journey since leaving the Dominican Republic at just 17 and moving to New York City. Could you tell us a little bit about the work you do now helping others unlock their power and how your journey led you here?
Yeah, thank you. So I ran away from home from Dominican Republic. My mother was in a very abusive situation. But I also was interesting living this like mystic in a closet life. At a very young age, I can see the spirit world. I can see grids and colors and hear things. And it wasn't really a conversation that you would have out loud openly. And so I hid it a lot. And the first person I told was my grandmother, and she was like, "Shh, we don't say this to anyone." So I was like, "Okay." Um, but it had me see my gifts as if it was something that I needed to hide from the world in order to be okay, in order to be safe. And so parallel to that, my mother's in this very abusive relationship that started later on, around 12, and she just wouldn't leave him, and he wouldn't leave her either. And it was very extreme, very abusive. So at 17, I just ran away. I left to New York, and it was the Frank Sinatra song that was playing that my guides would use music to kind of like communicate certain messages. And it was the Frank Sinatra song, and I was like, all right, if I can make it anywhere, it's New York. So let's go. So went to New York. I was homeless for 3 months. That was an adventure in itself because I think of it, if you put yourself in a 17-year-old rebellious teen phase, you're running away. But to be homeless in New York was like an
Terrifying.
adventure compared to what I was going through at home. So it felt like I was on this adventure with God, with spirit. And I was like a child with gifts that I didn't understand, but I was following them. I was following the intuition. I was following these pulses. And so I ended up in college because my friends in DR really advocated for me. So they were all going to New York to college, and they took all of my I've always been a writer, so they took some of my journal entries and typed it up and filled out the application and filled out my FAFSA, and they got me into college. And so I remember looking at the email where they were emailing me. And so at that point, I was forgotten. So to feel like people were thinking of you and they were advocating for you, because college when you're homeless isn't even a thought. You're thinking about how you're going to eat and where you're going to sleep for that night. So college became my first safe haven, and I didn't tell anyone that I was homeless. That became like a story of shame. And so fast forward, now I support women in really unlocking their gifts, fully claiming their gifts, their power. I really believe that we're all channels of spirit, God, whatever higher power you believe in. It doesn't matter the name you give it, but we know that there's something that is orchestrating this whole conversation, this whole we're on a speck of dust in the middle of the universe at the right formation, just like it's all perfection. And there's something that is controlling all of it, right? So for me, it's about having women step into their most wealthy potential, living their lives and living their truth, sharing their gifts.
Mm. I love so much that I'm sorry that you went through a tough time, with experiencing your mother, seeing your mother in that relationship and that being homeless. But everyone I interview, I just feel like you always have to go through those tough times to really hone in your own sort of spirituality, your strength. And that's how you're able to use it, especially if you're sort of an empath or an empathetic person where it's almost like a calling that you wanna pass those messages on and help other women find their voice and find their strength. So I love that was that journey for you, and I like the link of spirituality throughout your work that I've been seeing online, so we're gonna talk about that further, but that's such an interesting journey you've been on. It's incredible. And also I love many years ago, people would sort of have money mindset's a huge topic at the moment, and it's something I cover a lot, and a lot of people years ago would sort of talk about money being evil or it's you're greedy if you want it, but it's just not the case, and I love how we're reframing that mindset that when you have more funds available, you can do more amazing work and help even more people. So I really like, and especially with women who, 50 years ago couldn't even get a credit card. So I love that we're helping women more and more to find their power, and finance is a really big part of that. So I love what you're doing. Let's talk about creating wealth on all levels. What does that mean to you? And can you take us through some real life success stories and strategies to transform scarcity into true wealth?
Yeah. So I believe that every woman has a story to tell. There's a story that we're living and there's a story that we're becoming. And the duality of that, right? Where we are and who we are becoming is a choice. We're choosing that in every moment. And wealth is a choice and it's also our birthright. And when I speak of wealth on all levels, there's the mental, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, but also the energetic and the financial freedom. And I feel like women have been taught by the masculine's perspective of hunting and looking for money and chasing success and running after it as if I just wrote a post about this, as if it's running from them. And it's not. It's something that's inside of us that gets to be activated. And when we truly understand the pillars of this financial freedom through the feminine lens, we understand that we have the power to call in wealth because it is the truth of who we are, that we can turn a house into a home, that we can create from nothing, literally. And so I think the first step is for women to really honor their story and not look at the past from a victim lens, which is like, why did this happen to me? Or holding resentment towards lovers or moms and dads, but like looking at their story from there's a creative intelligence underneath every wound here. There's a creative intelligence underneath everything that we've experienced up until now. And if we truly surrender to what that alchemy of those stories are creating through us, then we, as these like temples, as these channels of God, have access to all of it from within. And so it's just wealth on all levels for me is like a woman loving her life, loving what she's creating in bliss, fully available, fully receiving, calling in, magnetizing the financial freedom, but also the bliss that comes with having a life that you truly love.
Yeah, because you see a lot of incredibly wealthy people who have very poor relationships, very poor health, and
Miserable.
it's just yeah, so I don't say just financially rich. I just want to be abundant on all levels. And at the moment, my life from where I was 10 years ago, I'm so abundant now. I was in an abusive relationship. I had debt. I now own property, but I'm rent vesting where we buy investment properties but rent where I live, and it's still just a one-bedroom unit, but there's so much love and serenity and warmth in this home. I have a good partner now, a wonderful son. So I every day, every night I end with the prayer of just so much gratitude for where I am. But I'm not done. I still have so much I'm striving for, but it's getting in that mode of gratitude of what I've achieved and how far I've come helps me get in that mindset and that energetic frequency to open up to receive more. So I find that very interesting. And I love how more and more people are mixing the what I call the woo-woo with the practical or the scientific and marrying that wealth with the energy. You touched on the difference between masculine and feminine. Do you think we sort of need to get more into our feminine to receive? Because, like, for instance, medical years ago, up until maybe 5 years ago, all the research was done on the male body. We are entirely different. So, do you think the same might apply for abundance, that we need to sort of get in touch with ourselves and be um, less about the doing and more about the being to open up the channels to allow abundance in?
Absolutely. And I feel like the more we learn the feminine way, which is about receptivity, leaning into the magnetism versus the doing, will open up all of the rooms to our palace. So if you look at your consciousness as this palace with many, many doors, at times we'll get so attached to having things that we desire show up in a very specific way. But the mind is very linear, and it's also been imprinted with a lot of cultural conditioning, societal expectations, all of the above. There's so many beliefs that we've inherited and so many ancestral patterns that we're reliving because of our loyalty to the family. And so when we strip away all of that, we're able to breathe life into this palace, your consciousness, and you're able to open up all of these doors and you're able to say, okay, what I actually am calling in wealth and freedom and success and bliss and loving my life or loving this partner, having this partnership that really meets me. What that feels like on a frequency level is this. And that's what I'm calling in. That's what I'm available for. So when the feminine leader can look at herself as the oracle, as the high priestess, as the muse, as the mystic, these different archetypes, then we start to steward our energy, the currency of our energy, in such a way that is like, you truly get the privilege that it is to be in your space. You get the privilege of people being in your space, being in your field. And when you understand that privilege and luxury, you start treating yourself and what you have to share and what you have to give the world with such reverence. And you're seeing this word be buzzed around a lot, reverence, reverence. You're hearing it. You're also hearing the word initiation being said a lot by women because I feel like we're being initiated to really step into the ancestral matriarch where we understand this is so much bigger than ourselves. This is so much bigger than having a life that looks good on paper. It's really about the energetics. How do we feel? How do we move? How do we lead ourselves? How do we look in the mirror and love what we see fully and own it unapologetically?
Mm. And did you find that you've always had these beliefs from when you were 17, or this is something that you've been able to get into more as you've gotten older over the years? Because I feel like the relationship with self for me has developed more and more as I've gotten older. I feel like it started around 27, 28. And I feel when I look back before that, I don't love seeing photos of myself because I see someone, even though my skin might have looked better, I see someone a little lost and a little sad, and I feel like I'm stepping into my power more and more each year. Have you found that on your journey?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think all of us women have to understand that we're this like question mark, dot, dot, dot. We're this great mystery. And the moment we hold on to identities that are old versions of ourself created in this identity, right? The moment I hold on to myself, I create suffering. I create that sadness, that grief, because I'm always in this conversation with God of like, who am I becoming? I definitely would say that my 17-year-old was amazing. She had the courage to embark on this adventure, but she didn't know and fully embody her truth. She didn't even know who she was. She just knew that
No.
there was something bigger and she was after it. She had the courage, which I love her for, but a lot of the embodiment came much later.
It's a yearning, isn't it? You feel something in you like there's just got to be more, and I was much the same at that age, and I grew up my very favorite movie was, The Never-Ending Story. So and they talk about going on a quest. So I feel like my whole life I've been on a quest, and I don't know if it's to find myself or to unlearn what society has shaped me into be and just shedding all that to get back to my true self, but I love the word quest for that purpose. I feel like it's 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 been a quest getting to myself, and it's fun. It's a great journey.
One of my favorite movies too.
So we're so I knew as we were talking, and I'm looking at your frames, I'm like, we have a lot in common. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Look, nearly every guest I interview, but I feel that's not a coincidence. I'm also big on that. The universe delivers the right people to you to share the messages. So, well, speaking of that, I see from your online content that spirituality plays a big part in what you do. Can you talk us through integrating spiritual practices with business strategies for sustainable success? And how you transcend limits of the mind through spiritual power.
Mm. I feel like the spirituality it has been getting a bad rap these days, where a lot of people are like turned off by spiritual communities and they're being very vocal about it. And I get why. I'm also one of the people that would probably step left when it comes to a lot of the new age misinformation. We're entering a world where we're going to be drowning in information. Now with ChatGPT, people are overwhelmed and drowning in information. But when you think about spirituality, it's the relationship you have with self and source. And as a human and as a spirit, how comfortable are you in your own skin? And for me, I am still there. I am still deeply human in this experience. I have my shit, I have my wounds, my stories. But the more human we can be with ourselves, the more loving and graceful we can be in that. And that's something that I feel like my fertility journey has really like brought me to my knees in understanding that perimenopause was such a great initiation for me because I got it really early, really young in my mid 30s. But when you are in this conversation of like spirituality, it's about loving yourself where you're so comfortable in your skin and you're so free to be who you are and you're so authentic, even in your mistakes. That level of freedom sets in motion something that is so authentically piercing. It is so magnetic, and that will trump strategy any day. Your energy will trump strategy. I love how one of my mentors says it. She's like, in the right energy, any strategy works. But oftentimes, yeah, that quote is from Melanie Enlayer. I love her. But if you think about it, the strategy will never, ever land if it's coming from the wrong place. And so you'll find yourself kind of looping, repeating similar lessons. And what I love about business is that, first of all, this is so new, even though it's alive in our lifetime. But this is so new for women as a whole to be business owners, to be entrepreneurs. This is something new to handle money, to be in a podcast conversation like this. This is so new. When we look at it through that lens, we understand that business is a spiritual vehicle to have you really transcend yourself, transcend all of the limitations, transcend a lot of the identities about yourself that you're holding fixed. Every new level is going to require you to meet another version of yourself. And so entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I don't
No.
recommend it. It literally turns us inside out 1,000 times and then some.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful adventure in learning to meet yourself and recreate and choose to be of service to the world and create value for the world and beauty. And it's such a beautiful spiritual journey for me.
Oh, I love that. I feel the same way. And that's why I feel like I could never really create products. I've always been a service-based person. I used to be a dancer. I used to be a singer. Now podcasting, but I feel like it brings me joy in this podcasting to share really positive messages, but also share really vulnerable, hard stories. My recent solo episode about motherhood struggles I've had. It's it's connection, and I just think community and connection is just such an important part of life. Have you seen the Barbie movie?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you know my two favorite parts? It's all. I think they did this on purpose. It's all noise, 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 color, color, color. And my two favorite scenes are where Barbie's sitting on the bench and the older woman's there, and oh, I've got goosebumps now, and they play the beautiful
Mhm.
Billie Eilish, like, instrumental version of the song in the background, and it's still, and you can hear the wind in the leaves, and they look at each other, and Barbie says to the old woman, "You're so beautiful." And she says, "I know it." And they smile, and every single time I get so choked up, and I think it's because kindness, saying nice words to someone, but connection and stillness. And, you know, the world's very loud. As you said, with this, we're overloaded with information because of the internet, now AI. To be still and connect with someone in that moment is just so beautiful. And the other favorite scene was when she's meets the maker of Barbie, and that she's sitting at a coffee table. And again, it's quiet, and she's really looking at her in the face. And it's just, it makes me feel something, and I don't think I'm alone in that. So I think connection is really important. So when you're, and a podcast is a great platform for that. The way I'm connecting with guests, the way I'm connecting with the audience, sharing messages about getting to know yourself and up-level your life, I think it's really important.
This is why I feel like in this AI paradigm, women leaders are going to thrive because we understand the
EQ.
value of human connection and community, village. We understand it. And so more and more the matriarchs are going to come alive. They're going to bring their villages together. And so this is
Well, we
it.
saw it in the pandemic with lockdowns. We struggled when we couldn't connect with people. And then you would find beautiful things like people were, having balcony chats with their neighbors, or like, because you just crave it. And I'm an extroverted introvert. My recharge is by myself, but I still need that connection to feel alive. But that's so true about the female leadership. That makes so much sense. Men can be more business minded and less people focused. So, yeah, I love that you said that. I really agree with that. Can you please talk us through some practical steps to unlocking our true potential to achieve our dreams and goals, which is what we're all about here?
Well, since we're on the topic about feminine leadership, there's a practice that I've been sharing, which is called feminine pacing. And it really dials into what you were speaking about, cultivating stillness and presence. And this is the name of the game. This is about really owning the power of our frequency, not outsourcing our intuition to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is brilliant. I think AI is going to really amplify the leaders that know how to execute and trust themselves deeply, but it needs to be led. You can't do coaching or therapy with ChatGPT because it literally is going to create a lot of narcissism tendencies where people are validated in a lot of wounding patterns. And so this practice is about slowing down and bringing yourself back into the presence of who you really are. So it starts with you just lying on the floor, ideally a wooden floor, and just breathing. And as you scan your body, you're scanning your body from your feet all the way to the head, and then from the head all the way to the feet. But you're taking your time with it. You're going into the toes, you're going into the ankles. And the moment that a thought comes in, you start again from the toes, bringing connected to the breath, bringing your awareness, offering your awareness to every part of your body. And when you do that the first round, and it's going to take some time for you to get through that round, the second round, you do it by asking your body to show you, what does wealth feel like in my body? And then you scan the body with this sensation, holding that frequency, holding that frequency. And what that does is it's a reminder that your body is the first bank account. And I don't agree with the new age nervous system people that I absolutely love. There's a role for them. I get them because there is nervous system work to be done. But it's not about just cultivating the safety where you're always relaxed. It's about your willingness, your readiness to be available and present and feel everything that's alive when more money is coming or when heartbreak is coming or when deception or betrayal comes our way. feeling it all and being able to hold that duality with power and presence and precision in your energy. And so the more you're able to anchor that frequency of wealth, because it's already alive in you, you're just now creating space to feel it, holding it as you're scanning your body. And that's going to give you a lot of inspiration, ideas, downloads, but it's also going to return you back into the most powerful frequency you have in your body.
I love that so much. And I recently did an episode, it might air before ours, with someone who's created an AI tool where you speak into it, and through your voice, they're measuring your energetic frequencies. And before he even told me, I said to him, okay, so, and it's chakras and everything. I said, I'll tell you now that the two chakras I have trouble with are my heart and throat, because every morning I do this. It's just a 10-minute chakra balancing meditation. And when I go through all the others, like the third eye, I feel magical. I feel, in touch with something. Every time I get to the heart or my throat, I feel overwhelmed with just emotions. And then he had a chart, and the heart and the throat were so overactive and the others were balanced. But I said, how wonderful that I knew that. And that's what made me know that I was on the right path, because 20-year-old Steph wouldn't have a fucking clue what chakras were, and let alone what was unbalanced. So with all the personal work I've done, I'm so tuned into myself. By scanning my body, I was able to tell where I was feeling resistance. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
That's why I feel like my
that's
life has improved, because I'm creating that relationship with self. And I do that through stillness and time alone. So let me ask you, with the scanning, would you recommend, so lying down on a wooden floor and not lying down, right? Not sitting up?
yeah, lying
Yeah.
down.
And would you recommend no music, or some nice, 432 hertz music? What do you think?
So it's interesting because I've done it both ways, without music and with alpha waves or different frequencies. I love both, and you're gonna discern, because what the feminine loves is newness. She wants to be surprised through her senses. So some days you're gonna choose no music to just really be with yourself, and some days you're gonna choose music to kind of create a different setting.
That's fair. I'm sort of the same. With some days I'll meditate without anything. Some days it's guided meditation. Sometimes it's music. So again, tuning into the self and, and deciding what you want. I love that. Thank you for that tip. I hope all the listeners do that, but I'm going to start integrating that from my tomorrow morning meditation. I think that's really great advice. Let's talk about personal mastery for a minute. Can you talk us through how we can cultivate a wealth mindset and somatic body to align and surrender into success? Somatic, I don't know a lot about. I'm certainly seeing a lot of somatic exercises with the hips and that. So if you could just explain that a little bit.
So there's our way of living and creating is very multi-modality. There's like, you were thinkers, we can feel it. We have habits and patterns that we do and express and create through. And so when you think of somatics, it's about the relationship with the body. The body is an oracle. It's always leading you. It's also this like Akashic library that has every memory stored into your body. And so there's certain things that the women in your lineage have gone through that also lives within you, that is trying to express itself to reach that completion through you. And so my best advice, and this is very nuanced, it's not something that it's like, oh, let me just do this and expect results overnight. No, this is something
Yeah.
that you build on. And so the relationship with your desires, what are they? How do you move through your desires? Do you judge them? Do you play them down? Do you even know what your needs are? Do you even know what you desire? Because Steph knows what she wants, not because the world is expecting of her, or the success imprints of the world have imprinted on us. So getting really clear and radically honest of like, what are my dreams and desires? And the best time to do this is after that practice, the feminine pacing practice.
Right.
After
Because
you
you've
do the
gotten
wealth
into the
frequency.
stillness.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then you journal. What do I desire? What are my desires? What are my dreams? If I had all the money in the world, if I had all the time in the world, what do I really desire? And when you ask yourself that, you're entering this relationship with spirit in a deeper, intimate way, because God dwells in your imagination through your desires. It is not about the things that we wish for. It's who we become through that becoming, through that evolution. So again, when you get clear on your dreams and your desires, then ask yourself, well, what do I believe that is in the way of that? What have I made up about myself, the world, my resources? What do I believe in that is actually in the way of that? And then ask yourself, what are the beliefs that I need to create? Then the last question is, who is the woman that has all of that? And those are going to now give you patterns, ideas, ways of moving, ways of dressing, ways of speaking that hold the energetic blueprint of those desires.
Well, that's very powerful. I absolutely agree. What was that line you just said? God dwells in your imagination, um, that leads you to your desires. What was it that you said? That's a beautiful
Yes,
line.
God dwells in your imagination through your desires.
I love that. He's rooting for you. He wants you to succeed. And very often when I pray, sometimes I'll just do a gratitude prayer, but sometimes I say, show me how to serve. And not in a
Mhm.
way of like, oh, I'm going to work for people forever and be a servant. We're here to serve, whether, serve the community, do something through our gifts and through our talents. And ever since I switched up my prayers to ask, just show me how to serve, I feel like I've let God take the wheel and let him guide me a bit. And yeah, it's very freeing.
Yeah, I mean, all of your desires, spirit wants to move through you and experience them through you. So it's such a beautiful art of intimacy to get really real and radical about what we truly desire and then doing the work to get there. And not from a like pushing and over hustling and grinding, but like, can I hold the frequency of what I desire and take the step that I see in front of me from that frequency, from actually knowing it's already happening. I don't know how, but I'm opening up all the doors to receive it.
I love that. And journaling you touched on is so powerful. I only started that maybe, I mean, I did when I was young, the whole Dear Diary thing, but I only started it properly about a year ago. I wake up, I listen to a frequency, then I meditate, and then I sit and I read like a nonfiction book, and then I journal and I pick a new affirmation card for the day. And my hand just keeps writing. Sometimes it's gratitude, sometimes it's affirmation, sometimes it's just getting things out of my chest and onto paper. It's very powerful. And it is, again, a really another great way to strengthen that relationship with the self and find out what your desires are and or what's in the way. So, yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I'm going to end with a question I haven't asked guests for a little while, but you've been on such a journey. I think it's very apt for you. If you met your 17, I normally say 18, but because you moved at 17, if you met your 17-year-old self today, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to relax and enjoy the ride. She did the biggest decision that set in motion so much. She doesn't even understand what she's done, but to enjoy the ride, to really like allow herself to really enjoy the ride. You're
Absolutely.
already
Do you
somebody.
think
You don't need
you
to become.
you overthought things a little bit at that age that you do less now?
I feel like I was all of my 20s and 18, 19, it was all about trying to become somebody.
Mm,
And it
mm.
was negating the fact that I was already somebody.
Oh, I love it. Yes. Yes. That's why
So
it's the
it's like,
unbecoming to go back to who you already are. But I feel like that's a very common thread because I think society, especially with women, for many, many years taught them to be a certain way and a lady and demure and, just like you sacrifice yourself for others. So I feel like we were never really taught to step into our power. I certainly wasn't. And that's something that I'm learning along the way. And that's why it's so important to pass that on to girls in their 20s. They need to know this.
yes. Well, when you think about it, right? In the old times, women were perceived as properties. And they were like business moves. How do we enrich the family? And so when you think about it, the most valuable properties were the houses that reflected who they wanted to see, not who we
Yeah.
were. And so the
Yeah.
more value we had was the more roles that we could play really good and be really good wives and good girls. And so we
Yes.
we were actually rewarded for not being ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is why no shade to any generation. I have love for all generations and friends from all different demographics. But I do see a lot of older women judging younger women. And I said, I almost don't blame them because they were brought up in that patriarchal society where there was just so much judgment on women. And maybe there's a pang of jealousy in them that I wish I could have lived that free when I was young. I wish I could have worn a G string bikini. I think there's a pang of, I'm jealous that I never got to live that free. So, yeah. So, look, I always say never look back unless you want to see how far you come. There's certainly still a lot of work for us to do, especially as women, but we have made a lot of ground, and I'm very proud of that and very proud of the women who stood before us and paved the way for us. So,
And we're
um,
doing it. We are so
we're
doing it.
doing it. Yeah. Oh, I enjoyed these chats so, so much. I'm feeling very spiritual. And I'm just so grateful for all of the podcast guests because I just feel like we're all these fellow light workers and it's just so important what you do for the community. And I'm so grateful that you came on here to share your beautiful energy. But I'm so thrilled that it was on a very special day too that you informed me. I feel like that's extra
Thank
powerful. And
you.
yeah, these synchronicities, these coincidences happen to me all the time. So I feel like it means I'm on the right path. I'll probably walk out and see a white feather today. It's usually my sign that I'm on the right path. Thank you so much. It's been honestly such a pleasure. So I hope you have a wonderful week. And everyone, please do something in the next week to fill up your cup.